Here we go. Hi there, Smart Drivers. Rick with Smart Drive Test talking to you tonight about what to do if you get pulled over by police. The correct procedures. Who are the police? Why are they pulling you over? What is the authority that allows police to do that? And where do laws come from? And who is the government organization that's enacting the laws? And what is the purpose of all of this? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Let's get started. Mallory is here from the Maritimes here in Canada. Black Hallow, hello. Colin is here, and some other people. Evan is here. Evan asked me a question. I will answer that question here as well. We're getting started a little bit early tonight. The reason is I was supposed to go and pick up my daughter, who's been visiting her grandmother for the week, and they were supposed to land at 7:30, so I needed to get out of here like at 7 to go and pick them up. And of course, now the flight's delayed. So we'll just go till 7. So Sean is here from Minnesota, Coconut Head. Hello, what time are we ending? I'm going to go through to 7, so we'll do all of that. It'll be great. And Tim is here, Drive Smart BC. Tim is a retired police officer, so I am very happy that Tim is here. That is great. Wolf is here as well. Bricks for Wheels, that's Corey. Corey is the moderator, does an excellent job of getting up the videos that I suggest you have a further look at for more detail on the answers that I give you to your questions. And bear with me one sec. I'm looking a little bright here, so I'm just going to turn down the brightness. I'm not sure what's going on here, but anyway, we'll try that. Tim, Drive Smart BC, have a look at that if you're in the province of British Columbia and want to know anything about traffic safety, road construction, road safety, driving instruction, all of those topics related to the big umbrella of, being safe on the roadways. As well, there's an excellent forum over there that you can participate in and talk with authorities and those types of things. So definitely check out his channel. Walters, you're definitely getting a good start there. You're 14, soon to have a license. That is awesome. And great stuff happening here at Smart Drive Test. We're starting a podcast to get that going. I heard the first version of the podcast, a couple little tweaks, but other than that, I think it's going to be really great. Basically, what we're doing is we're taking the best of the hour of the live stream and putting it into a podcast so you can listen to it there, which is going to be great. And you are most welcome. 20 years of traffic enforcement by Tim there. My friend Blessed is here from Hawaii. And Walters, this is fairly useless vid for me, but I somehow still watch it. Well, hopefully I can be entertaining for you and you can learn something. Simon is here as well. Tremendous. So lots of people here. So without transition over there. Awesome. Got that going. Most of what I'm going to talk about in terms of policing is directed towards the United States, and I am going to talk about police forces there. Now, let's just lay a few ground rules here in terms of talking about policing. I've put up some videos on other platforms, not so much here on YouTube, but other platforms. We can have a discussion about policing, but we are not going to criticize people. We are not going to have this descend into a discussion about race and racism. This is not what this is about. This is about being pulled over by police, what you need to do to keep both yourself and the police officer safe, how to do that correctly, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about your rights, why you're being pulled over, and those types of things. We're not talking about all of the rest of it. Yes, some of it is problematic, and some of this is needed to be discussed for sure, no doubt, but we'll leave that for other people and other different topics because it's completely outside of the scope of what we're doing here and what we're trying to do to help people. Tim says nothing wrong with me. Twitch. Awesome. So let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what stage of your license you are at and what you're going for and how we can help you out, and we will do all of that. So without further ado, let's get over to the presentation. Pulled over by police. What do you do if you're pulled over by police? And who are the police? What are they doing? Why are they pulling you over? What is the traffic infraction that you've committed that has caused police to pull you over? All right, those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997. Earned my doctorate in legal history in 2006 from the University of Melbourne. Yes, I lived in Australia for 5 years. I was a driving instructor there and drove coaches while I was going to university. Started the online business in 2015. It has been incredibly successful. And the video that I put up last week on Wednesday, this video, gauges and switches in a big truck. I basically sat in a big truck, explained what the gauges and switches were in the big truck, and this video just rolled over 25,000 views after 3 days, which is I need to figure out what the Cadbury secret is of that video so I can repeat that. All right. Levels of policing in the United States of America. You have city police departments. Chicago has its own police force. New York has its own police force. LA has its own police force. Dallas has its own police force. So police forces, and these police forces police traffic and other crimes within the city. There is a large portion of these police forces that their resources are dedicated towards traffic management. As Tim says, he worked for 20 years doing traffic enforcement. Sheriff departments work at the local level. The difference between sheriff departments and city police departments is that the sheriff is elected by the constituent in and around the area where they live, so outside of large metropolitan areas. State troopers. These are the state police and usually work along interstates and do other crime that's underneath the state laws. Okay, Capitol Police look after congressmen and any other senators and people who live and work in the United States of America, so they have jurisdiction nationwide. Federal police are not going to pull you over. The FBI, if you work for the FBI or the Secret Service or other large intelligence agencies in the United States of America, you have to have a college degree for one thing, and they are not going to police traffic. Where do laws come from? Okay, these are put forward in Congress and they're debated. They're passed in Congress. They go through the Senate in the United States of America, and then they're given presidential assent, and then they're passed into law. And it is the idea of authority, and it is based in the Constitution, laws, Parliament. There are a lot of big organizations that you are part of as an American citizen in the United States of America. Now, I did talk a little bit about race in the United States of America, and when officers or a cadre of officers go rogue, that is power, and that is unsanctioned abuse. Now, authority is based in the United States Constitution. It's the same thing here in Canada. We have a constitution as well. The authority of police is based in that constitution, and they are the only sector of government society that is sanctioned to use physical force underneath the laws and constitutions within that country. Okay? And this is necessary for public safety and public order. It's the fundamental conflict of traffic, collisions versus congestion. And let me just unpack that for a little bit, okay? We want to get people, goods, and services between point A and point B as quickly as humanly possible. How many times have we been behind somebody that's going slow and we're like, why is that person going so slow? We want to go as fast as we possibly can. But we need to balance that, on the other hand, with crashes and collisions. So how fast can we let people go? What can we let people do on the roadways? And balancing that against how many crashes and collisions and injuries, maimings, and death can society sustain? Okay? Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada is our Constitution. Exactly. Thank you, Corey. Okay, the thin blue line. Police departments put forward the idea that they are the thin blue line between society and crime. The reality of most police departments is as much of their resources and energies go towards public order, public maintenance, okay, i.e. traffic, and keeping us safe on the roadways. Many and most police officers, and Tim can probably talk to this more than I can, but you have to understand that most of the time police are dealing with the not so nice element of society. And unfortunately, with public, mental health being kind of offloaded into public spaces and those types of things, we have more transients, and police are burdened with dealing with this element of society as well. So different places, different countries, different regions have different ideas and different opinions about policing. When I lived in Australia, for example, they had a very negative attitude towards the police forces. Here in Canada, we tend to respect our police forces a little bit more. I have had some comments about the United States of America. It depends where you are and those types of things. For the most part, it's pretty good. Some places not so much. So it's going to be depending on region and area. Okay, traffic violations are order maintenance work. In other words, they're trying to keep traffic moving up and down the roadways and those types of things, keep people safe. And again, as I said before, it comes back to the fundamental conflict of traffic, which is collisions versus congestion. Okay, and then of course you have police cultures and academic journals. Books have been written about the conservative nature of police forces, and this is probably due to the fact that as I said, they're not dealing with the nice people in society most of the time. As Tim just corrected me, exactly, in traffic enforcement, we were dealing with all aspect of society, which is absolutely true. Okay, it's a dangerous job. There's no doubt about it. I had the buggy breakdown today, and I ended up sitting on the side of the highway for 5 or 10 minutes, and it is not a place that you want to be. And we can talk about stories of people who, have not survived car crashes sitting on the side of the road. So they are definitely figuring out when they pull you over whether they are in a dangerous situation or not. So where are you in the world? Are you in a bad part of Chicago? Are you in a bad part of New York City? Or are you in New Jersey or someplace like that? They're looking at what kind of vehicle are you driving? How many people are in the vehicle? Is it just a couple, or are there 4 young males in the vehicle? Okay, and what state are you in when the police officer approaches your vehicle? Okay, and cameras, definitely dash cams, body cams, cameras on phones, and these types of things have created accountability on the part of police forces, not only on the part of police forces, but also in the ability to prosecute and convict in courts of law. So these have changed the way that we view policing and the way that we hand out traffic tickets and those types of things. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, a very high level overview of who police are and the authority that they have to pull you over for traffic infractions and those types of things. So here is the nuts and bolts of what you do when you get pulled over for a traffic infraction. Most of the time you're going to get pulled over, and Tim can confirm this or deny this or challenge me on this. Most of the time you're going to get pulled over for speeding. That has been my experience in being, being pulled over. Stop as soon as you can do safely. Someplace where you're going to be safe, you're going to be able to get off the road as far as you can. For example, when I was when I got broke down today on the side of the highway, there was no place for me to safely get off the roadway. So you can drive for a distance to get off someplace safely where it's going to be safe for both you and the officer. Okay? Do not get out of your vehicle when the officer approaches your vehicle. Wait in your vehicle until the officer comes to the window and starts to give you instructions. Do not fossick around in your car looking for your driver's license or those types of things. Simply wait for the officer. Keep your hands in your lap or keep your hands on the steering wheel. All right. First thing that you do not do when an officer approaches the window: do not deny what you have done. Okay, if you got pulled over for speeding, don't say, "Hey officer, I wasn't speeding," because that is going to start the adversarial conversation. I made that mistake in the state of Pennsylvania. One time I got pulled over in a big truck for being in the third lane. The officer comes up to the window and says, "License and registration, please." And I said, "Oh, is there a problem, officer?" And yes, then the officer was justified in yelling at me because I was denial of what I was doing. I knew exactly what I was doing. I was out in the third lane on the freeway, which you're not supposed to be in a big truck. All right. In the United States of America, if you have a weapon in the vehicle, tell the officer immediately that you have a weapon in the vehicle, that you have a closed carry permit, or a concealed carry permit rather, and that where the weapon is, it's underneath the seat on the passenger side, or it's underneath your seat, or it's in the console in the center of the vehicle. Tell the officer where the weapon is. Okay, follow the officer's instructions. If the officer asks you for your license and registration. Simply say, okay, the license and registration is in the glove box. I'm going to reach for the license and registration. Is that all right? And the officer will say, yes, yes, it is. Okay, and as I said, and Mallory just said this, be nice. Don't be adversarial. They will throw the book at you, okay? So what goes around comes around. If you're polite, the officer is going to be polite in return. 9 times out of 10. There have been times when I've been pulled over for speeding and the officers come to the window that I knew as soon as the officer came to the window that I was going to get a ticket for whatever I did. Most of the time, as I said, it was speeding ticket. And my friend Big Mac Sam is here. Hello, Big Mac Sam. All right, move over laws. Here's the last piece to keep yourself safe. If you are on the highway and an officer has a vehicle pulled over on the side of the road, you must pull over to the left lane if you are able to on a multi-lane road, and you must slow to 40 miles per hour on the highway. And if you don't do this on a driver's test, you will fail your driver's test. So know that move over laws exist all across the United States of America and in Canada as well. And as Tim just said, probably don't say anything, listen and only respond if necessary. And that's exactly it. Okay, your recourse when you are given a ticket by a police officer. In some U.S. states, California is very big on this. You will have to attend a defensive driving course. Now, sometimes you have to do it in person and show up at the driving school, or you could do it online. You receive the ticket. There's a place on the back of the ticket where you can simply sign your name and plead guilty to the ticket and pay the ticket. Now, in some places, you're going to be assigned demerit points depending on the state that you're in or the province. If you are assigned demerits, your insurance premiums may go up, because know that insurance companies track these traffic infractions on your license, okay? And your last option is to plead not guilty, and you can go to traffic court. Now, you need to know that if you there's a couple of options about that. We can talk about that during the discussion in terms of going to traffic court. And Tim probably has some good stories about going to traffic court as well. So we'll leave it there for that. All right, so if you got a test coming up, remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. And we'll get back over here. There we go. All right, and I want everybody to wish my friend, Big Mac Sam. Big Mac Sam, are you still here? Are you still here? Let us know if you're still here, my friend. All right, Tim said, yes, my first traffic supervisor said that God would not have made traffic tickets with 3 spaces if he didn't mean for you to fill them out. Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, and Rain Crazed, hello, my friend. Just waiting for Big Mac Sam to come back. Tim says, in the province of British Columbia, emergency lights only, find a good spot and pull over, lights and siren, pull over and stop now. Yes, excellent point. And I suspect that is the same, not just in the province of British Columbia, but I suspect that is the same in any state, that if they have sirens on and activated, that probably means pull over like now, right now, okay? Because they're coming at you. Tim says most people are not prepared to deal with traffic court, and I would agree with what Tim says in terms of going to traffic court. I did have one time that I went to traffic court. It was an incredible learning experience, and yes, I would say that that is exactly true. Very true in terms of going to traffic court. Charles Lee, hi Rick. My question as a driver, how do the 3-point turn during a driving lesson or during a road test? Okay, Corey will put the video up for you on doing the 3-point turn, and that will explain everything you need to do. My friend Big Mac Sam, it is my friend Sam's birthday today. Happy birthday to Sam. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sam. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Sam. That's awesome. And you got to watch the video where he's cutting his hair. It's kind of funny. Yeah, you can stick that up there. Patrick, I was wondering if you have any tips for commuting on mega highways such as the 401 in Toronto. Just got my G2 and need to start driving to work. Yes, keep your space. and keep your distance away from other vehicles, especially in front of your vehicle. That will definitely help you out and keep you safe on the highways. And definitely look at the daily traffic reports there. The MTO probably puts that out. Will tell you about congestion and those types of things. And know where you're going, know where your off ramps and exits and those types of things are. All of that will help you out commuting back and forth to work. My friend Big Mac Sam, that is awesome. And my friend Goose is here, Nichols City Driving. He's a driving instructor in Sudbury, Ontario, Northern Ontario there. Excellent. Tim says, go to traffic court as a spectator before your trial date. See what happens and plan your strategy from there. Yes. And I will tell you the story about going to traffic court. I got pulled over for a speeding ticket, decided that I was going to go to traffic court, and did in fact go to traffic court. The veteran police officers who had a lot of experience in traffic court spent a great deal of time describing in detail what had happened, what the weather was, where they were sitting on the roadway, which direction the traffic was traveling, which direction the person who they were giving a ticket to, what radar gun they were using, the model, what training they had had on that gun, and just an overwhelming amount of detail. At least that's what I thought. And they were successful in their conviction. The person was given the speeding ticket. My officer was obviously not very experienced and gets up, says, I saw two males in the car. They were traveling eastbound on McTavish Road. The front of the car went down. I pulled them over and gave them a speeding ticket. No, I pulled them over and administered a ticket. And the judge said to the officer, was there anything else, officer? The officer said, no, that's all, ma'am. The judge said, again, are you sure, officer, that that is all that happened? And the officer said, yes, that's all that happened. The judge looked at me and said, Mr. August, the officer has failed to tell me what he charged you with, therefore you're free to go. And I suspect that this only happens once or twice with rookie police officers, and then they learn very quickly that there's a lot more to going to court. It's exactly what Tim is saying, that you need to go to court because it's going to be a very different kind of strategy for you to be successful in winning your case. Richie, $10. Thank you so much, my friend. If a Canadian driver committed a driving crime while visiting the U.S., do they still have to serve their time there? I used to think that they would give them a pass because they're Canadian. No, Richie. Now, a driving crime, a driving offense is not a crime. Okay? Let's delve into law for a second. There is a criminal code of the United States of America under which there are criminal acts. Traffic infractions are not criminal acts. They are different, okay? And they are under highway traffic legislation. So those are two different pieces of legislation. And a traffic infraction is not the same as a crime that you would be charged, prosecuted, and convicted for. If you go to the United States of America and you are pulled over for a traffic offense, speeding, or making an illegal left-hand turn or those types of things, you simply have to pay the fine. If you don't pay the fine in the United States of America because you're a Canadian and you think that you don't have to pay the fine, they put out a warrant for your arrest in that state. So say that you did it in the state of Arkansas, for example. If they pull you over again, they will find out that there is a warrant out for your arrest. They will lock you up. And then they will only release you if you pay that fine. So know that if you're traveling in the United States of America. That's how that works. Tyler, does the buggy have a timing belt? When did the last change it? Honda has a non-interference engine, so no bent valves. Yes, Tyler, you're absolutely right. The buggy is due for a timing belt. Absolutely no doubt. This on the buggy is an electrical problem because once it heats up, it just like shuts down. and then it cools down, and then it starts up again. Because so what's happening is when it heats up the wire, there's a break in the wire and it expands, and then when it cools down, it goes back together and it works. It just, like, it goes down the road, all the lights and everything work, everything's fine. It's just the engine won't start. There's something with the electrical. I had a bus do this to me some years ago when I was driving bus in Australia. So that's what's going on there. Corey's put up the video on 5 tips for safe driving. Tim is saying, I can guess who the JJP was, the Justice of Peace. There we go. Rain Craze, I was a walking person 6 months ago. I've been training in the winter here in Minnesota. Passed my permit because of Rick and also my road test because of him. Thank you so much. Rain Craze, you are so welcome. That is awesome. Congratulations on passing your driver's test in the state of Minnesota. All right. Let's talk about the poll that I put up this week. I put up a poll on what is the most dangerous state to be driving your car. And one of them was, the first option was drunk or high on marijuana. The second was prescription and over-the-counter medication, distracted driving, and there was one more, fatigue and fatigue driving. So I'm just going to pop over here and I'm going to pull up the thing for you. Image slide. Here we go. Okay, bear with me. And no, here we go. All right. So there you can see the presentation, and I'll just make it a bit bigger for you so you can see it. All right. So what is the most dangerous driver? I've got 1,200 votes. Drunk or high on marijuana is 65%. Prescription and over-the-counter medications is 2%. Tired and fatigued is 12%. Distracted driving is 21%. And I got a lot of comments on this. And the interesting part, one of the interesting parts about this is that drivers who probably smoked marijuana took umbrage with the fact that I said I put being drunk and being high together. They got very upset about that these two things were very different, that one was not the same as the other. And I hate to kind of try and read into this, but I was kind of reading into this and saying, oh, it's okay to drive high, but it's not okay to drive drunk. That's the impression that I was gonna get coming back at me. So I'm kind of wondering about that. But anyway, you can put your opinions forward. You can put your comments, and they're very welcome, because as I said, I'm writing a book on the psychology of driving, and all of this is great information for me. So I'll tell you why I put that question up there. The reason I put that question up is because I had a driver getting their CDL license in the province of Nova Scotia. They were reading the PDIC book, the Professional Driver Improvement Course, and the question on the test was, what is the most dangerous state of driving? And she didn't know, and I didn't have access to the book because it's put out by the Canadian Safety Council, and it's proprietary, and they only put it with their course. And she came back to me and said the answer was actually fatigue. Fatigued drivers are the most dangerous on the roadways. Now, it's interesting, and I'm going to pause it and put forward that the anti-drink driving campaign has been very successful in convincing people that drink driving is bad. And it is bad. Don't get me wrong. It is absolutely bad. You should not drink and drive, no doubt. However, fatigue driving is bad, and it's very high on the list. But prescription medication and over-the-counter drugs, I would argue, are as bad, if not worse, than the other three combined. What is can anybody kind of hazard, all of the smart drivers now or watching on the replay, hazard a guess the number of people in our society who are on prescription medications and what effect that has on you and on your driving, and whether you know whether it has an effect on your driving? I think that a lot of people think that just because it's prescribed medication or you can buy it over the counter, that it doesn't have any effect on your driving. And I would disagree with that, and I would take issue with that. So have a consideration about that. Goose, which is the safest choice of lane to turn left at a major intersection when there are 2 lanes to choose from? I've always thought the rightmost lane is the correct lane. I could be wrong. No, Goose, you're absolutely right. It is the right turning lane, because when you get around the corner, you're in the right lane and you don't have to change lanes over to the right lane. Now, if you're in a hurry, obviously you can do it in the left lane, and then you're in the faster lane and you can get going. But for teaching students, definitely in the right lane. Okay? Tyler, I had to go to the police station to drop off keys that I found while walking. The officer asked for my identification and phone number, and yes, Tyler, that's fairly standard procedure. And in the event that they can't find the owner of the keys, they will probably give them back to you. That's probably what's going to happen. Jane, thank you so much, Rick. I passed my road test. I've been watching all your live chats every Sunday, and that is awesome, Jane. Congratulations on passing your license and getting your driver's license. Really, really awesome. Tim says alcohol impaired driving is still way too common, and I would agree with Tim. Unfortunately, all of the campaigns for anti-drink driving, I don't think have been effective. I really don't. And especially this time of year with spring coming on, if you go out and walk along the highway and look in the ditches to see how many beer cans and bottles and alcohol bottles and those types of things, there are a lot of them out there, which is disturbing, as Tim said. Rain crazed, I'm sorry guys, but if you were under the influence here in Minnesota, you may be spending a night in jail. And rain crazed, it's the same thing here in the province of British Columbia. And interesting in terms of police powers, increased police powers in terms of drink driving, because unfortunately increased laws around drink driving have not been effective in convicting people for drink driving. And many people who have been under the influence have gotten off in the court of law under a technicality, unfortunately, and now police have increased powers around drink driving, especially here in the province of British Columbia and in some of the states as well. So as the same as there in Minnesota, you're probably going to be spending the night in jail. Okay, Goose, you can't drink and drive here in Sudbury because you might hit a pothole and spill it. Coffee, of course. Smarty pants. Ioku, knowing some people smoking marijuana have driven while high, obviously I don't approve. I think your instinct is correct. Okay. Okay, excellent. Tim, drug impaired driving is not something that I often dealt with. When I did, Crown was reluctant to prosecute. And yes, I think, it's interesting that because prescription medications are legal, it's something in our society that hasn't been questioned, and obviously there hasn't been any studies into it because it's not illegal. So, is it something that we can quantify? Probably not. It's probably not something that we can quantify or something that we can do a study about. All right. Tim says liquor containers in the ditch outnumber soft drink containers, and that is that's a sobering fact. Pardon the pun. Tyler, it's dangerous if your passengers are distracting the driver. Yes, they are, and this is one of the reasons that the GDL and GLP programs limit the number of passengers in the vehicle for new drivers. John, my friend, how many hours of sleep or rest in order to not get fatigued? John, it's not so much about how many hours you need to sleep to not be tired when you're driving. I would argue that it has a little bit to do with your circadian rhythms, your biological clock during the day, and that sometimes you're going to be, you're going to fall asleep in the middle of the afternoon because our biological clock takes a dip between kind of 1 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So there are some people that fall asleep in the middle of the afternoon due to the fact that, their circadian rhythms kind of dip, and it's a nice sunny day and it's warm in the car and those kinds of things. Next thing you know, they kind of fell asleep. And one of the difficulties we have as traffic safety authorities is single vehicle collisions. Vehicles that crash with a single driver in the car. We don't really know the reasons why many of these drivers crash. Are they drunk? Did they fall asleep at the wheel? Were they distracted? Were they speeding? Did something happen? And those types of things. It's one of those things that's really difficult to quantify, and we don't really know a great deal of things about it. So, when two cars crash, we can kind of put a lot more information in. I mean, obviously, it's a lot better now in the last 20 years because of computers in cars. We can get more factual information and reconstruct the crash, not the crime. Tim, we missed a few things in the traffic stop, like not digging around for documents while the officer approaches. Keep hands in view, interior lights on at night. Yes, and that's one of the things that I said in the presentation is that don't do anything in the vehicle until the officer approaches, and follow the officer's instructions. Don't be digging around for documents, exactly what Tim said. Okay, with the officer, keep hands in view, interior lights on at night. Yes, so if the officer approaches at night, turn the interior light on and keep your hands in view. Either put them in your lap or put them on the steering wheel. Don't be moving your hands around and those types of things, because these are kind of, if there's criminal activity and the officer is in danger, then these are the telltale signs that put officers on alert to something happening, criminal behavior and those types of things. All right. Okay. So Mallory says never drink or drive distracted. Absolutely. Yes. Big Mac Sam, don't forget to give the live stream a thumbs up. Thank you, my friend. Happy birthday again. Happy birthday to Sam. Awesome. Okay, don't know that. Goose, is there any science behind the suggestion to chew gum while on a long road trip, because chewing apparently keeps your brain active and awake? Goose, I suspect that there is some study somewhere, if you dig around in the academic journals and those types of things, because when I was driving truck, one of the things that I used to eat, I used to have a 5-pound bag of carrots down beside the seat, and I used to eat carrots to keep myself awake while I was at night. So I suspect that the chewing of gum is similar to eating carrots while you're driving. That's going to help you out. Corey, rambling, that's probably going to stay that way. I feel as though your doctor should make that clear for prescribed medications, though maybe it's the mixture of different meds causes the problem, maybe not. Easy for prescribers to make clear the side effects for driving. Yes, and it is, and it's exactly, Corey, what you said, that mixing of drugs, I think a lot of people who are driving don't know the effects of the combined effects of the prescription medication. And as well, there's a lot of medications that you can get over the counter. You can get ibuprofen, you can get extra strength Tylenol and other medications and those types of things. So you got to be careful with what you're doing and what you're putting together and what you're putting in your body while you're driving, for sure. All right, I was reading Anwar. We'll just answer this question here. Anwar, I've heard in Toronto that a driver went into the highway through the wrong entry and died by head-on collision. She was on prescription drugs. People honked at her even though she didn't notice. And yes, unfortunately, this will happen sometimes. People don't know the effects of the medication and they do something that causes them to get into a crash. But unfortunately, there are other medical conditions as well that can affect your driving, right? You have a stroke while you're driving, or you have a heart attack, or some other medical condition that could affect your ability to drive. Crystal, hi Rick, I'm doing well. How are you? Doing awesome. My driving practice went better than 2 weeks ago. Awesome. I can pack up my tent and go home. General Motors has patented a driverless car that is now going to instruct new students to drive. Just think about that, for the irony of that, for 2 seconds. A driverless car is going to teach new drivers how to drive. And I thought, okay, who came up with this idea that we're going to have driverless cars teach people how to drive? And then I went on the channel, had a comment somewhere. of a driver that failed the driving test because they showed up at the DMV without their mentor. And they said they didn't drive with a mentor in the car because they didn't like somebody else criticizing them and giving them feedback on their driving. My first response to that was, well, that justifies the driverless car, because then we can teach new drivers how to drive. You've gotten the irony of this, right? Driverless car, no driver. But we're going to teach drivers how to drive with driverless cars. That's the irony. The next piece is, if you are getting a driver's license, I know you're young, but part of life and going through life is having other people give you feedback. You know, maybe good feedback, maybe not good feedback, and sometimes they're going to criticize you. That's a fact of life. If you want to get a job, you want to go to university, those types of things, rejection, criticism, negative feedback, all of this is part of life. So if you are going to go get a driverless car to teach you how to drive because you can't handle other people criticizing you, I think you're going to have a pretty tough time with your life, because you gotta take that on. General Motors, Sam, you can look that up. General Motors has come up with a driverless car that's going to teach new drivers how to drive. Yeah, isn't that awesome? Bummer. Quick question. This may be unrelated question, but when you are approaching the entrance from the other side of a double solid yellow and I get ready to turn, do I have to keep going or stop? Okay, so you want to turn left across. You want to turn across the double solid line. Now, Tim, I don't know whether Tim's still here, but we had a huge discussion about this before, and my belief, and from all the stuff that I've read, is that double solid lines control passing, that you can't pass. It doesn't control turning. You can turn across a double solid line. Just, make sure that you have all your observations, your checks in place and those types of things, but you can turn across a double solid line, okay, because it controls passing. Blessed, off topic, I have a small car, but I wanted to put blind spot mirrors. Where is the appropriate area? Should I put the mini circle mirrors? Sometimes hard to see some cars. Yes, Blessed, you have your beautiful pearl white Honda Fit. Put the little mirrors down in the bottom corner of your mirrors. That's the best place for them to look into your blind areas and those types of things. Okay, Goose, if you want to learn how to drive from a driverless car, you might also want to sign up for an avatar in Metaverse. Yes, indeed. Excellent. Okay. People with narcolepsy should not have a license, could fall asleep at any time. Tyler, that is true. And here's a funny story. We did actually, when I was driving taxi cab years and years ago, this is decades ago now, that we had a taxi driver that worked nights that had narcolepsy, and he would fall asleep at traffic lights with passengers in the taxi. And later, I worked opposite shifts to another driver who drove the same cab, and he had worked with this guy, Hank. Hank had narcolepsy, and so he would come and pick him up at his house in the morning. And so one morning, Hank didn't show up, and he's looking out in the driveway, can't find the guy. It turns out he found out 2 or 3 hours later, Hank realized that he was sitting in the wrong driveway. He'd been sitting there for a couple hours and smoking cigarettes and wondering why the guy didn't come out of his house. He was sitting in the wrong driveway. So there are people who have narcolepsy who drive. Tim, depends where you are. My California Highway Patrol friend would not cross double solid lines for any reason. Interesting. I'm still convinced that double solid lines control passing. They don't control turning. Rain craze, to put somebody down for their age is bad. Where did that happen? I don't know. John, which do you prefer, theoretical exam or hands-on driving? John, you need a little bit of both. And I think that the system that is in place works well because you have to have some knowledge about driving. You have to have some basic knowledge about the car, road signs, theories, attitudes, animals, those types of things. But at one and the same time, you also have to drive in the vehicle. But you need to know this other information because there's a lot of, what is the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of terminology in language in terms of being able to drive well and those types of things. Tween Teen, hey, how are you? Enter a highway when the ramp is the left side of the highway, for example. Okay, so it's on the left side. So basically you get on the on-ramp like you do any other time. Get your foot into the throttle, get up to speed, put your signal on, make sure that you signal early so that you communicate with other traffic on the highway that you are merging out onto the roadway. But it's more or less the same as if the on-ramp is on the right side of the road. But of course, you're now looking out on the right side, you have a blind spot there, but you're going to have to shoulder check and look out on the highway and those types of things. All right. Xander got a new truck. Awesome. Congratulations. And what Corey just said in terms of right of way is theory, and there is a great deal of theory around right of way rules according to different traffic signs on the highway and those types of things. Okay, so know that you need to know, you have to have some knowledge before you get in the vehicle. And of course, it isn't always going to dovetail well with the theory and the information that you're getting, and so you got to figure out in practice what works in practice and what doesn't work in practice. Rain Craze, 38 years old, and I love my car. I'm free finally. Not many of us have help from friends or family. And this Rain Craze, that's an interesting question because this is something that not often, but it comes up every now and again about people who are learning to drive, and perhaps Sam can weigh in on this, and Goose and Tim and others here on the channel, people watching on the replay, leave a comment down in the comment section there. How do we help people who are wanting to learn how to drive, but they don't, as Rain Craze just said, who don't have friends and family to help them out and mentor them? And, unfortunately, I've even had parents where I've had students come back and say to me that their parents are unwilling to take them out to practice driving. How do we help these drivers who want to get their license but don't have friends or family to help them out? What can we put in place? And just leave a comment if you're watching on the replay down, and with suggestions about how we can help new drivers to get the practice that they need, because it's practice. It's exactly what we were just talking about in terms of the theory and the practice, and putting those two things together and driving to be a safer, smarter driver. Because the more experience you have driving, the more practice you have, not only is it going to be easier to pass your driver's test, but you're also going to be a safer driver overall when you get out on the roadway and start driving. Because but hazard perception is only something that it's a learned skill, and you have to have more driving time to build your dictionary of hazards on the roadway. Because in one situation of driving, for example, it's going to be completely harmless. Nothing's going to happen. In another situation, it could lead to you having a traffic crash. And these are the things that we need to instill in new drivers, is this hazard perception. What's danger and what's not dangerous. Tim said parents might not know enough to teach someone to drive, and that's very true. The other thing about that, Tim, some new drivers rely on driving instructors, and the system is not really set up for driving instructors to teach new drivers from A to Z. Okay? It's designed that you go and have a driving lesson, then you go and practice for 3 or 4 hours, and you come back and have another driving lesson, then go and practice again. Maybe the way that we're delivering driver education needs to change so that you can go to a driving school and you can get 20 or 30 hours of practice time. Maybe we just have some people at the driving school who are not driving instructors but are qualified and certified that they can take you out and you can get some practice in driving. Okay? Okay, and Barraquette says, I'm somebody that doesn't have somebody to help me out. Okay, so we're definitely trying to figure this out for people helping out. Sam, one of my former students had Tourette's. It was a very interesting experience. I felt so bad for her. She was doing great, learning how to drive. Her tics were coming and going fast. Interesting. That must have been a bit of a challenging experience for sure. Tyler, person I know had crashed into a house and doesn't want to learn driving anymore. And yes, traffic crashes can do that they will deter you from wanting to learn how to drive. And if you do experience a traffic crash, something happens, you sustain injury, it takes a long time for you to convalesce. It can be a very difficult experience for some people. I worked with a woman at the hospital doing driver rehabilitation. She had been in a traffic crash. She'd gone through the front windshield. She came in. We worked with the occupational therapist. We took her out for a short drive. I don't think we got out onto the roadway. We simply remained in the closed circuit area that we had up behind the hospital, and that's where we worked with her. She just wasn't able to overcome her anxiety. The other piece about this that I will counsel you, if you are in a traffic crash and you want to return to driving, you are going to have to get back to driving as soon as possible. Okay? The more that you delay getting back behind the wheel, if you want to drive after a traffic crash, the more you delay, the more difficult it is to get in behind the wheel. When I got run over on my bicycle in Australia by a bus, I knew that the next day that I got back on a bicycle and I started riding again. Let me tell you, for the first 3-6 months, it was a scary experience. But I knew that if I did not get back on a bicycle right away, that I probably would never get back on a bicycle again in my life. So if you've experienced a traffic crash, you need to start driving as soon as you're able again. Get back in the vehicle and start driving. Even if it's just like in your driveway, if it's in a parking lot somewhere, get in the vehicle and start driving again, because I can almost guarantee you that if you wait 2, 3, 4 months, it is going to be much more difficult for you to get back in that vehicle and to start driving again. And you're probably going to have to rely on some professional help, psychologists, sociologists, or other people that you could that can help you with that, because the anxiety and the fear is very real. Okay, Rain Craze, I have Tourette's, but no, you are in control. Awesome. Tim says traffic crashes taught me to fear other drivers. Yes, definitely fear other drivers. I'm beginning to think that when I walk around Vernon, I'm going to now need to get a chest harness for my GoPro. We were at the main intersection. It's a complex intersection. It has multiple left turning lanes. And I know exactly what happened. My son and I were going down to the grocery store, and we're at the intersection. We look up, and there's this motorcycle rider on a big orange Harley, and kind of like, whoa, and the horns are going. And what happened, there was a driver sitting at the intersection at the red light, and they were daydreaming or looking off somewhere else, and the left turning traffic started to go, and the driver went, oh, it's time to go, and just like drove into the intersection on the red light when the left turning traffic was coming through the intersection. And the motorcycle rider, it was a very lucky day for that rider, because the person driving the car that plowed into the intersection on the advanced left turn missed him like 6 inches. 6 inches. So yeah, I'm gonna start, like I said, I'm gonna start wearing my dash cam on a chest harness so that I can get some of this stuff on video. All right, Joshua, how do you stop overthinking and getting distracted while driving? Joshua, a couple of things you can do, just have a mantra in your head that you're repeating over and over again. I am driving well. I am a safe driver. I'm driving well. Breathing techniques, breathing in through the nose to your navel, out through the mouth. And then maybe some classical music on the radio, some low level classical music that isn't going to distract you while you're driving. All of that can help to reduce your anxiety while you're driving. And then, of course, it's just practice and exposure to driving. All of that is going to help you out to overcome your anxiety and your fear. Anthony, I took 20 hours of lessons for my license and I still feel the need to practice. That's awesome, Anthony, that you're still learning. And yes, you probably will need a bit more practice and whatnot. Definitely focus on slow speed maneuvers. That is really going to help you out with your driving. Goose, I had an equestrian accident when I was 16. Haven't been back on a horse since. My wife has been challenging me to go horseback riding for about a decade now. No. And that's exactly what happened. And that's what I was talking, and that's what I'm saying in terms of what Goose just said, that he got on a horse, got injured when he was 16, never got back on a horse, and is probably not ever going to get back on a horse. Same thing with my bicycle crash. I knew that if I didn't get back on a bicycle within a couple of days, I was probably never going to ride a bicycle in traffic ever again. Sam, yep, my brother's wife was in a terrible crash and stopped driving completely. She doesn't want to drive anymore. That's how terrified she is. That was years ago. It was the same with the client that I mentioned that we were working with at the hospital. She went through the windshield, waited months and months and months. I think it was actually more than a year. And she just could not overcome her crippling anxiety and her crippling fear. Now, on the other hand, we had numerous young adults who had been involved in a crash, debilitating crash, paralyzed, became paraplegics, and got back in a vehicle that was fitted with hand controls and learned to drive again and those types of things. So they were able to overcome that fear, and they were able to overcome that anxiety, and they were able to get back to driving. Now, of course, they needed some vehicle modifications to be able to get in the vehicle, drive with hand controls, and learn how to do that, and had to take some driver rehabilitation, but they were able to get back to driving. So Tim says, heck, I'm still learning how to drive. And, Tim, I would agree with that statement. I am still myself learning how to drive, and there are still times that I make mistakes. I don't make mistakes. I don't make huge mistakes, but I know how to drive. And I just did a video short this week where some person in a cargo van tried to merge into me, and after looking at the dash cam footage, and you'll see this here in a couple of weeks when I put it up as one of the video shorts, that driver missed me by inches, like literally inches, because I'm like looking and I'm moving slightly to the left as the person's merging into my lane, and I'm slowing down and on the brakes at the same time that I'm on the horn going, hey buddy, you're coming into my lane. Can you not please come into my lane? And I think that anybody who is a traffic professional, anybody who is vested in traffic safety, teaching people how to drive, those people realize that the task of driving is incredibly complex, and that if you think that you have it all figured out, that is a very arrogant attitude, and that is not true in any sense of the imagination, because you don't know it all, and there's way too many variables in terms of driving. There's just too many things going on. And I mean, now we have technology, and I can't remember which smart driver was telling me about this in terms of adaptive cruise control, stability control on vehicles, and we have lane assist, and all of these technologies are difficult for older drivers, and they're difficult for new drivers to get accustomed to be able to drive and operate a motor vehicle safely. Epic, my friend, need to consider that when you pass a vehicle speed pulled over by police, must come over to the other lane, because an accident involving a police or tow truck, states have laws in New Jersey, and it's not only in New Jersey, Epic, you're talking about the move over laws. They're more or less nationwide in the United States of America and in Canada as well. You have, if possible, you have to move over to the left lane, and you have to slow to 40 miles an hour or 60 kilometers an hour here in the in Canada. Yes, we're on the metric system here in Canada. So know that when you're driving, to keep these emergency personnel safe, police, fire trucks, ambulances, and might be search and rescue and tow trucks as well. We want to keep all of these people safe along our highways. Tim, I see mistakes that I make when I try to. I wonder how those who don't care manage as well as they do. Yeah, there are some days, Tim, I look at other people who are on their phone, because I see people on their phones all the time when I'm walking around, going down to the school and going to the grocery store and those types of things, and I just think, how are you possibly driving a vehicle? Sam, I was driving my best friend's father's car back in 1990 when I was 19 and was hit by a drunk driver. Yeah, it didn't affect me at all. No shock, Sam. That would kind of freak me out. Incredibly, yeah, because traffic crashes are one of those things that many people go into a great, you don't really expect it, and you go into a bit of shock over. Rain Craze, I don't and knew I have to keep watching you, Rick. I can die tomorrow not watching. Brakes fail, anything at all. You help me every way you can. Excellent to be the best driver. Goose says, I wonder that too. Those types of drivers give us types of drivers a fairly wider margin for forgiving ourselves when we notice our own mistakes. Absolutely. And Mallory says, you're never too old to stop learning. And isn't that the truth? We definitely keep learning. And I mean, that's one of the things that I've been talking about, that our job in life is to grow, right? And one of the mission statements here at Smart Drive Test is to empower you to achieve your success. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're trying to help you with. And this is the reason that we put these polls out. We try and answer your comments. We try and come up with answers for you, because not all of the answers are the same, and not all authorities agree, and not all driving instructors are going to give you the same amount of information. And one of the things that I was talking about in terms of power over driving instructors are these driving instructors are not really interested in empowering you to be a better, safer, smarter driver. They're, look how much information I know, look how much knowledge I know. Well, that's not really helping you out. And that's not the purpose of what we're trying to do here at Smart Drive Test. It's not what Sam is doing in Bronx. It's not what Goose is doing there in Sudbury. And it's definitely not what Tim is doing there on Vancouver Island in terms of helping people. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people to become safer, smarter drivers. And in terms of the question that was asked earlier, theory versus practice, we're trying to give you information so that the practice of driving, you have information that you see a driver wandering in their lane, and we know from the information that Tim has given us and the information that we're presenting today in terms of police pulling you over and those types of things, that a high number of people are, drink driving is still a problem. And if you see another driver, another vehicle wandering in their lane, hey, wait a minute, maybe I should really back off here and give this person a lot of space, because this person might be drunk. This person might be high, because marijuana is now legal. And unfortunately, you make marijuana legal, and it now becomes a problem with driving, that people are going to drive high. All right. Blessed, my friend, I got my license when I was 32. Now I'm 46. That long, scary though, but just me. There's some drivers out there that are not great drivers. And that is very true, Blessed. And that is very true, like the driver that tried to merge into me the other day, or the driver that wasn't paying attention at the intersection and essentially plowed into the left turning traffic at the intersection. So yes, there are people who are not paying attention. There's people who are distracted. There's people that be inebriated. Either they're drunk, or there's high, or they have mismanaged their prescription medications, those types of things. So what we're trying to do is give you the information to help you remain crash free on the roadways. Tyler, I had a driver went over the solid white line to get into the turning lane, cut me off, makes my blood boil. And in fact, there's no doubt about it that it does, in fact, really upset you when that happens and other drivers cut you off and whatnot. Alonzo, do you yield to pedestrians walking to cross or only if they are walking already? If they're in the street and they're walking already, then yes, definitely give way to pedestrians. I talked about this in a video 2 weeks ago in terms of properly scanning intersections. As you're approaching the intersection, you want to map the intersection. What kind of intersection is it? Is it a complex intersection, just a straight conventional intersection, traffic lights, turning lanes, those types of things? Looking and locating vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists, motorcycle riders, kids on skates, scooters, those types of things. You want to be tracking their movements, and are their movements going to cross your path of travel? Is it something that you need to let off the throttle and give the right of way and whatnot? So think about that when you're approaching intersections, and definitely have a look at that video. And Corey's put up the video on pedestrian safety and crosswalks. Thank you for that, Corey. Mallory says, I enjoy watching and commenting on your live stream every Sunday. And Mallory, we certainly appreciate you being part of the Smart Driver community. Awesome. You make really great suggestions. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Epic here in northeastern United States, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. They have different driving styles. New York or Pennsylvania drivers in New Jersey tend to be ignorant, and others in a and yes, and I've driven in a lot of different places in the United States of America and those types of things. I really don't think that people are different in different places. People say that to me all the time. And, I've driven all up and down the eastern seaboard in the United States of America, and I really didn't find people that different. People are the same. In terms of social driving, drivers are reactionary and they're retaliatory. They follow too close. They don't stop it completely at stop-signed intersections. They speed. And if you tailgate somebody because they're going too slow, that's retaliatory. If somebody pulls in front of you and you're trying to go faster and they're up there and they're like, oh, I have the right of way to be here, all of that is just retaliatory. If you can move away from reactionary and retaliatory driving to reading traffic and responding accordingly, you are going to be a safer, smarter driver. And that's what you want to do when you're driving on the roadways. Tyler, see you next week, my friend. All the very best, my friend. Rain Craze, I love watching all Rick's videos. He would be the only one here on out. I won't be the best, but it will always be the best answer, not always the right one. Awesome, Rain Craze. That is really great, my friend. One of the other things in the news this week, and we're going to talk about this just a little bit, and then we'll end it here for tonight. In the 1990s, in the province of Ontario, particularly along the QEW, and it always seemed to be Quebec trucks, that they had wheels coming off the trailers of the trucks. And I'm on one of the news feeds, Fleet News, I think it's called. They were talking about an inventor has come up with a device that now the wheels, if they break off the trailer, that they won't they won't go flying off into traffic and those types of things. And so I find that interesting that this is still a problem, that wheels coming off big trucks, but I guess it is. But now we have an invention that will stop that from happening and protect people on the roadway, because wheels coming off big trucks, whether you know this or not, that wheel assembly probably weighs 5, 6, 7, 800 pounds. It's very heavy. And then it's at speed because it's going down the road, say at 60 miles an hour. As soon as it comes off the truck, it's now no longer under load. So now it increases in speed to about 60 miles an hour, and it's just this juggernaut going down the road. And unfortunately, with it, some people did die in the 1990s when these wheels came off these trucks. But now we have an invention in the news that's going to fix this, and it's going to be one less thing that we have to worry about while we're driving up and down the roadways. Rain Craze says that, yes, in Twin Cities, but I suspect, Rain Crazed, if you drove in Dallas or you drove in Los Angeles or you drove in Seattle, you would find drivers just as bad as they are in the Twin Cities. Goose, thank you. Sensei Rick, have a great week, everyone. Gotta go. Student road test pre-practice hour begins at 7:45. Then I have the rest of the day off. Woohoo! Excellent. All the best, Goose. Have an awesome night, my friend. All right, we're going to leave it there for tonight. Thank you very much for all of your comments. If you passed your driver's license in the last couple of weeks, congratulations. And if you have a test coming up this week, good luck on that. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.